Awesome. Amber, our community storyteller, made these beautiful deck for us. I love this image. So welcome everybody. My name is Bridget Legault. I'm the community manager with Rainforest, Alberta down in Calgary. And we are happy to bring this hour to you alongside CyberSecure Canada. Around protecting your business against cyber attacks. So we have Nigel with us today, who I will be passing the mic over to after a quick intro of the Rainforest if you are new to the Rainforest. So before getting started, in the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we honor and acknowledge the traditional Treaty 7 territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, as well as the Stoney Nakoda and Tsuut'ina nations. We also have a nice acknowledgement of Region 3 if you are in the Edmonton area, or if you're elsewhere in the world, just take a moment to acknowledge the unceded territories in which you work and play. And so I'll just play this quick video from the Rainforest.
What does it take to realize an idea, or for a seed to sprout? At Rainforest, Alberta, we know the answer is rooted in trust. Traditionally, Albertans have cultivated their ideas in established systems. Inputs that don't fit these systems are weeded out. Opportunities for growth are missed. But now, Albertans want a dynamic landscape that can evolve organically, like a rainforest. At Rainforest, Alberta, we believe a culture of trust is the fertile soil where ideas grow. Our budding innovation ecosystem is a network of relationships pulling each other up as they push forward in their own field. Trust breaks down barriers. An open, inclusive network increases collaborative innovation. Successful breakthroughs inspire new ideas. A cycle begins. Rainforest Alberta is a movement to amplify trust by cultivating honesty, inclusion, and accountability. How? Our social contract holds us accountable to demonstrate trust across the province. We meet to have honest conversations around collaboration. This leads to more inclusive spaces for everyone to fearlessly build new ideas together. By raising the standard of trust, Alberta's ideas, talent, and resources can be evergreen. Visit rainforestab.ca to sign the social contract and start growing together.
So that is Rainforest. We are a movement building a collaborative culture of trust and diversity in Alberta's innovation sector.
What is it?
And please stop doing that. Thank you. Okay. Did I stop sharing there? No, you can still see this, right? Lunch without lunch? Awesome. So how else do we come together? Sorry for the screen going like this, but we'll just leave it as is. We come together every week, every Wednesday from 12 until 1 over the lunch hour through an event called Lunch Without Lunch, where you can come hear different founder stories, learn about resources in the ecosystem, and get to know others, which is nice in this virtual world we seem to be stuck in for eternity. So it's a great way to meet others that you might not otherwise ever collide with. So lots of great moments like we saw in that video tend to spur from that hour. We also hold an annual summit, and you heard about the social contract in the video. If you haven't signed it, please head over to our website, and you'll also gain access to our Slack channel where we have 2,000 individuals working to build this culture in Alberta's innovation sector. So we also have an event called Startup Drinks and Pitches that we hold alongside Startup Calgary. That's usually held every last Tuesday of the month, though they're experimenting right now with different formats and different times. So you kind of just have to keep your eyes peeled on our website or social media for when those are announced. And with the cancellation of a lot of in-person events moving into next week, which was supposed to be Inventures and a lot of fun things, that will probably get pushed off, I'm guessing, until October, but watch for it. And we also have a podcast called the Libby Podcast, Leaders, Innovators, and Big Ideas, which is a volunteer initiative run mostly by our great volunteer, Al Del Dagan. The Libby Podcast is a great listen every week. But if you'd like to try your hand at hosting a podcast or being a guest on a podcast, maybe you want to talk about your company or the work you do in the ecosystem, you can contact me or Al Del Dagan directly on LinkedIn or otherwise, and we can sign you up to be on the podcast. So contact us through that email or through the Slack community if you want to learn more. So on that note, we'll head over to Nigel Russell, who is going to start the workshop for today. As I've already told a few people, I do have to step off halfway through, but it's a small group, so I'm sure unmuting and just chatting back and forth won't be a problem once Nigel's done his presentation. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for being here.
Totally. Sorry about that. I was trying to find the unmute button, but thank you for the warm welcome. And I'm just wondering, can everybody see my screen? I'm wondering if I can get a thumbs up from a few folks. Okay, awesome. So to take a little step back, I'd just like to introduce myself. So my name's Nigel. I work as a CyberSecure Canada advisor, and I also work as a policy analyst. And I'm coming at you live from Calgary, so don't worry. I'm not coming at you from too far away. But just huge shout out to Bridget in the Calgary Rainforest for helping set this up. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today about the importance of cybersecurity as it relates to small business. So I'm just trying to go through, oh, there we go. Okay. So it's a little fidgety, but here's today's agenda. So I've got 3 overarching themes that we're going to highlight. So first is small business cybersecurity. We're going to talk about the landscape, why startups and small business are becoming victims of small business at an increasing rate, why cybersecurity matters, even to think about tangentially, right? Because some small businesses and startups just don't have the capacity to think about cybersecurity. So hopefully I can change some minds on that. And then lastly, we can talk about CyberSecure Canada. So bringing everything together, and then I can provide you with details about what the government of Canada is actually doing to help small business and cybersecurity. So before we start, here's just a quick thought experiment in cybersecurity, right? And this works best for founders and small businesses, right? So 4 quick and easy points here. First is my business protected against cyber threats? 2, why should I take cybersecurity more seriously? 3, how can I show my clients and my business network that I take cybersecurity seriously? And then that last bullet there, what do I do if I'm actually the victim of a cyber attack? So we're going to come back to these later in the presentation, but hopefully this jogs your brain on cybersecurity. So when looking at the cybersecurity landscape in Canada, small businesses actually matter most, largely because they make up the majority of the economy. So 98% of companies in Canada do classify as SMEs. They employ about half of the workforce. But hackers are intentionally targeting startups and small businesses at an increasing rate. So some really good data from CFIB came out earlier this year, where 25% of small businesses in Canada throughout the pandemic experienced a cyber attack. So that equates to about 61,000 firms nationally. So the number is quite large. And I mean, the fact is 1 in 4 small businesses have experienced a cyber attack throughout the pandemic. So why do hackers target small business? So the 3 main reasons. The first one is, and this one may seem a little obvious, but small businesses store lucrative information that can be sold on the dark web, right? And the prices behind some of these pieces of information and data are quite interesting, right? So credit cards can go for as little as 2 cents on the dark web. You can buy an entire identity for $30, or you can buy somebody's entire medical history for $1,000, right? And this is the kind of stuff that actually happens. Another big reason startups and small businesses are attacked is because they may serve as an entry point into larger firms or into networks, right? So when a hacker's targeting a small business, they may know, oh, if I get into this company, I can get into that larger value chain, right? And a really good example of that occurred in 2014 with Target in the United States, where one of their third-party vendors was the victim of a cyber attack, and that hacking organization gained access to Target systems. And the third point, and probably the most important, is that small businesses are generally less equipped to respond to cyber attacks, right? So founders, startups, they may not have a dedicated IT team or an IT person who actually knows how to respond to cyber attacks, right? So hackers know this, right? And hackers will periodically scour the web for job postings on cybersecurity, right? So if a small business is hiring a cybersecurity expert, that's a really good indication that that business doesn't have any cybersecurity expertise currently, right? So it's a good gateway for hackers to get in. And the top trends that we're seeing right now in Canada from a federal perspective are that hackers are becoming more sophisticated with the attacks that they're launching. They're becoming more frequent as more businesses digitized, fueled because of the pandemic, and they're becoming increasingly harmful, right? So maybe if we shift back a decade ago, they were harmful to singular business entities, but now they're penetrating large systems and larger networks where the damages can be quite extreme. So the threat assessment for small businesses looks a little bleak, right? All of the information that I've spoken to already paints a relatively negative picture for how SMEs and cybersecurity intersect, right? But we're going to get to the solutions in just a minute. But the threat assessment looks pretty threatening, right, for a small business or a startup, where just some stats here, the average cost of a cyber attack in Canada is about $50,000, and 60% of small business who go through a damaging cyber attack actually have to foreclose, right? So it is a big deal, especially for small businesses that work in tech and they have sensitive information and data on hand. It's a big deal for them, especially if they go through a cyber attack, right? So the 4 practical steps, or the easiest steps to navigate when taking this more seriously, are: step 1, take cybersecurity more seriously, or just think about it, right? In your orbit, have it be on your radar. Step 2, assess what steps you can practically take to protect your business. Step 3, explore cybersecurity certifications when ready, or products that can help your business and its cybersecurity. And then step 4, leverage free federal resources on cybersecurity, right? There are tons of resources out there on offer by the Government of Canada, by provincial governments in Alberta too. And I'll touch on those later in this presentation, but they're really good resources for small businesses to access, especially if they don't have an IT team. So now we're going to jump on to why cybersecurity actually matters, right? From a business continuity and strategic perspective, why should anybody even think about cybersecurity, right? The main reason is that it's an opportunity for ROI. Right? So there are 4 returns on investment in cybersecurity, and they're right here. So reducing business risk, regulatory compliance, lowering recurring costs, and meeting business targets, right? So these are the 4 main areas of ROI. And this is why businesses actually invest into cybersecurity. It's not a matter of they get so big that their clients require them to go through this. It's they see the tacit value in investing into cybersecurity. So a lot of startups and small businesses that I've connected to ask, how do I quantify, or how do I actually look at the ROI in cybersecurity? So you can actually calculate that. You can investigate that as a business, as a firm. You can calculate how much you should expect to receive in savings or indirect savings every year from a basic equation like this. And don't worry, I've shared these slides with the Rainforest. They will be available afterwards, just in case you want to reference this. And another interesting area from a small business perspective is business spending on cybersecurity, right? So how much do firms actually spend on cybersecurity to protect their business, right? The most competitive and reliable data from industry on this is that companies usually spend about 0.5% of their revenues on cybersecurity, right? So some startups, some small businesses, it can be challenging to invest into cybersecurity, but to align yourself with what's happening in industry could be a stepping stone. And just some intangible returns on investment relating to cybersecurity that I think merit attention. So I've listed the top three here, right? So value chain confidence, international business development opportunities, and client relationship management and retention, right? So investing into cybersecurity is great for these reasons, because when you do, you can tangibly show to your network that you've invested into cybersecurity and that you take the network's data and information seriously. When building international partnerships, you can leverage your cybersecurity credentials and certifications in those processes. And then from a client management and retention perspective, you can leverage your cybersecurity to show that you take those relationships a lot more seriously. And a lot of logic that's applied in this space is a cyber attack probably won't happen to me, right? Or what are the odds that I'll actually be the victim of a cyber attack in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? And the fact of the matter, and this is unfortunate, it's really not a matter of if, but more when, right? And I've listed 4 extremely large organizations and companies here that went through a major cyber attack this year. So Canada Post, JBS Foods, Colonial Pipeline, and Kaseya, right? One of the most impactful attacks here was Colonial Pipeline, but I'll draw your attention to JBS Foods. So JBS Foods is one of the largest meat processing firms in the world. They're headquartered out of Brazil. Earlier this year, their US operations grinded to a halt because of one ransomware attack that shut down 20% of all meat processing activity, right? So the logic here is, if it can happen to them, it may happen to you, right? So it's really not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So investing into it proactively could be a really good idea from a strategic business perspective. So knowing all of that, being prepared pays off in spades in the long run, right? So 3 very simple tactics to deploy immediately. Make cybersecurity a business priority. Share it with your board, share it with your team. When you're strategizing next April, talk about cybersecurity and how that fits into your IT and IM budget. Educate your employees on cybersecurity, right? It could be once a year, twice a year, but it will pay off. And then lastly, invest strategically in cybersecurity, because as we've discussed, it can yield some really positive ROI dividends in the long run. So then we can move into CyberSecure Canada, right? The program that I helped develop and promote. So one area for startups and small businesses to consider when they're looking into cybersecurity is CyberSecure Canada. And in a nutshell, I've listed the main bullets here. CyberSecure Canada is essentially the Government of Canada's lite-touch certification designed specifically for small businesses who want to take cybersecurity more seriously. It's been designed, developed by experts in 3 government departments. So Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, the Standards Council of Canada, and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which is essentially CSIS in this scenario, right? The program features 13 areas of baseline cybersecurity compliance that a business has to adhere to receive the certification. And again, this is just one avenue for businesses to consider, but it's, as I'll discuss in a few slides, it's an accessible and entry point into cybersecurity. So in practice, so knowing all of that, the more formal content about the program, here's the program in one sentence, right? So CyberSecure Canada is the Government of Canada's lite-touch cybersecurity certification designed for small business who want to take cybersecurity more seriously by offering a reliable, federally approved, and industry-aligned product they can leverage to build their business. So in practice, this is how CyberSecure Canada actually manifests in real life. Another really good thing about CyberSecure Canada is that it's been developed in alignment with what's happening in industry and nationally, right? So there are a few gold standards in cybersecurity in industry, and I've listed them here, which are the SOC 2 audit, ISO 27002, the NIST 800 series, and the CMMC series. My apologies, many acronyms, but the gist of it is that these are gold standards in industry that most firms will invest into at some point. We also have a lot of international alignment. So our teams are in discussion with equivalent teams in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. They have very similar national programs. So CyberSecure Canada overlaps very seamlessly with the programs that they've developed. And here are the three program goals, right? Or the three overarching goals of the program. It's really to boost baseline SME and startup cybersecurity in the country. We're here to raise awareness and educate folks on cybersecurity. And then we're here to increase consumer confidence in the digital economy. And again, the program is really built for small business, right? So the cost of the program that we'll jump into is very cost effective. It's an accessible point into cybersecurity. There's a low implementation burden relative to some of those industry standards, and it's accessible by non-technical specialists. So here's how the program works. We've talked about it at a high level, but here's how CyberSecure Canada actually works. And I've broken this down into 3 phases. So the first phase is discovery. So there's a CyberSecure Canada online self-assessment. It's completely free. It takes about 30 minutes to go through. I highly recommend all of my clients, all businesses to go through this because it provides you with a free cybersecurity posture assessment, right? So that it can add some immediate value to your business's current operations. Step 2 in that process is you'll connect automatically with one of our certification bodies who are the auditors in this process. They'll have initial consultation with you. They'll talk to you about your cybersecurity needs and will assess your business to see whether CyberSecure Canada is a good fit for you, depending on where you are and the maturity of your firm. And the last 2 phases there are going through the certification process itself and then stewardship, right? So keeping your certification going in the long run. So to get certified, again, it's meeting our core 13 areas of compliance, demonstrably showing them to one of our auditors, and then you'll receive the CyberSecure Canada certification mark. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see there is a cost involved to this program that ranges anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000. For perspective, our team reached out to IBM earlier this year, and they quoted us about $20,000 to conduct a similar audit. So the reason why our program is priced so affordably is because we've entered into partnership agreements with our certification bodies to keep the price low so that startups and small business can actually invest into cybersecurity without having to invest about $40,000, $50,000 into a cybersecurity audit. And I've been alluding to this entire presentation, but here are the 13 areas of compliance in our program. So some of them are very non-technical, some of them are technical by nature, right? And I will mention as well, our team is launching online e-learning modules later 2021 in October or November, or most likely November, that will relate to these areas and should hopefully allow anybody to walk through CyberSecure Canada without having cybersecurity expertise. And kind of culminating everything together, talking about the value proposition of CyberSecure Canada and cybersecurity, there are 3 main value propositions here that I like to articulate to companies in Alberta, right? So the main value proposition is that CyberSecure Canada is the only federally approved and designed cybersecurity certification on offer right now. CyberSecure Canada is an easily accessible entry point into cybersecurity, and CyberSecure Canada can be leveraged for whatever strategic business needs a firm may have, right? So these are the main value propositions that differentiate CyberSecure Canada from other gold standards in industry. So now we're coming full circle to those 4 points that we spoke to at the beginning of this presentation. And that first one, is my business protected against cyber threats? Immediate, something I would recommend to everybody, complete our online self-assessment for your organization, your not-for-profit, your startup, whatever business you're running, whatever team you're on, to get a sense of how secure your business actually is. Why take cybersecurity more seriously? Hopefully this presentation has shown that there is an actual ROI from cybersecurity investment, and that it's not just another IT or IM expenditure. How do you show your clients that you take cybersecurity more seriously? By going through a program like CyberSecure Canada, like SOC 2, like ISO 27002, by putting some investment towards this to show to your network that you take it seriously. And then what do you do in the event that you're actually the victim of a cyber attack? I will say that we don't have any services at CyberSecure Canada for that, but the RCMP has its anti-fraud center that you can contact anytime, and they will assist you with whatever you need with the cyber attack that you're going through. So the top takeaways, if you remember anything from this presentation: first, be mindful of cybercrime. 2, think tactically about cybersecurity because it will pay off in the long run. 3, assess your IT expenditures. You're already spending something on information technology in your company, so see where cybersecurity fits into that. And then 4, leverage federal funding and expertise on cybersecurity, right? So here at CyberSecure Canada, we house technical experts on cybersecurity. We've got great contacts at the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity and CSIS, should you need additional expertise and guidance. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity can help you develop a strategic 5-year roadmap on cybersecurity if that's a service you want to access. And there is funding for this, right? So if this is something you're interested in pursuing, please contact me after this presentation whenever you have the bandwidth. There's funding through the National Research Council, Western Diversification Canada, which is now Prairies Canada. So there is funding that can help you through this program from start to finish, so you won't have to put a dime of your company's money towards this program, right? So I'd highly recommend thinking about it and whether you want to go through this program. So here, I'll just leave my contact information up. That's the end of my formal presentation, if you will, but I'd be happy to field any of your questions. But again, I'd love to connect with you guys after this presentation more informally to learn more about you and to field your questions on cybersecurity. And if you have any founder friends or businesses that may benefit from this type of thing, please feel free to share our contact information, because we'd love to get in touch with them too. But maybe I'll leave it there, and I'll just ask the group, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat, or you can simply unmute and ask them directly.
Well, thanks a lot, Nigel. That was great. Bridget, did you have any words before I ask my questions? You good?
So I actually think...
Yeah, Bridget's on the way out, and I'm interim host at the moment. So
Okay.
yeah, if anyone has questions, like, feel free to ask them or put them in the chat window there.
Okay, yeah. So Nigel, Max and I are co-founders. This is the kind of thing we need to do. Definitely funding for the program would be something we'd be looking for. We're trying to be as lean as possible right now, because we're a startup. We're a pre-revenue startup. So did some of those agencies that we've talked to, Western Development Canada, or Western Economic Development, I should say, for their grants, they look for revenue, like $1 million revenue companies. For this type of program, are they willing to fund pre-revenue companies?
So that's a really good question. And I'll say right off the bat, let's have an offline conversation, because I'd love to connect you with some federal folks in Alberta that may be able to assist you as well. But the fastest way to fund this program right now is actually through the National Research Council. So we've entered into a pilot project involving, it's the NRC IRAP folks. And what we do in this scenario is they'll assess your business to see whether you're eligible to gain special funding for CyberSecure Canada. But they haven't rejected anybody so far, right? So it's a very open and inclusive platform and program where we're really trying to put as many people through the pipeline, because NRC IRAP naturally sees the value in cybersecurity as well, right? So I'd say let's have an offline conversation, but I'll definitely connect you to my team at the National Research Council, and they'll have that initial discussion with you. But it's great to know that you guys are interested in this. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I'd say, I could tell you right now, let's schedule that meeting, because we'll probably want to kick this off. Max, unless you have other thoughts, want to kick this off.
Pretty soon. I am really soon as well.
Okay.
And then do we pay, can we start this online assessment before we get the funding? Do we have to start the funding in advance? And do you know the order, or should we take that to the offline?
Yeah, so we can take that offline, but the beautiful thing about the program too, just for everybody's benefit and the recording, is that at no point in time do you have to sign any contractual obligations with CyberSecure Canada up until you perform that final audit. So when you go through our online self-assessment, completely free, takes about 30 minutes to go through, you get that free cybersecurity check, you connect with one of our auditors, you can use that initial consultation to gain whatever information, expertise from them you want. And at that point, they will tell you, hi, Adrian, you're meeting 10 of the 13 areas of compliance. Here's where you need to improve. It's on you, right? So at that point, no paperwork, no finances, no commitments, right? Which is a really good thing about our program. So, and the logic behind that is that we don't want to burden you with a cybersecurity commitment as a startup, right? Because you may not have the time for that. So that's the logic behind that, but absolutely we'll have an offline chat because I think you guys could go through this pretty seamlessly.
Nigel, I have a follow-up question. Sorry, I'm jumping in here. Have you, maybe just in terms of examples, I know every business is different, but what is sort of the usual time frame that you have experienced companies take to kind of get through this process?
So that's a really good question, and you're going to hate the answer that I'm going to give you, but it depends, right? Yeah, so if a company, sorry, but if a company comes into this program and process very prepared, they could complete the audit within a 2-week period. So they could reach out to the certification body on Monday, have that initial consultation, work towards getting those areas of compliance by the following Monday, depending on how lean and agile they are. And then by the Friday, go through that certification process, right? So we have had some firms that have gone through this at rapid pace, but the average client that has gone through this program has spent a few months. So I'd say about 3 months, where they've had that initial consultation, they've spent a month or two working towards gaining compliance, and then they've gone through that final audit. Yeah. So typically about 3 months, but again, it really depends on the size of the company and how invested they are into this.
Got it.
And could you explain a bit more about how the audit actually happens or occurs?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So the audit is conducted entirely virtually. So when you connect with one of our certification bodies or auditors, following that initial self-assessment, you'll connect with them that way virtually, and they will be your guide through this process. When you feel prepared to go through the audit, you'll connect with them again and say, hey, we're ready to go through this. That audit typically takes about 3 hours minimum virtually to go through it, right? So they're not going to fly out to Calgary or wherever and look at all your systems in person. It's all done virtually. At the end of that process, that's when that payment is rendered. I will note as well, let's say you get 50% through that audit where you think you're prepared. Thankfully, there is no cost relating to an impartial audit, right? So let's say you go through it 75% of the way, and then everybody realizes, okay, this isn't it, right? We need to follow up next week or next month. Should that occur, there is no cost involved. So it's only when there's that successful audit that's performed where a cost is rendered.
Cool.
Great.
Anything else, Max, you want to ask?
No, this has been super helpful. Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Ross, do you have the presentation to share, or does Bridget have it?
I don't have a follow-up presentation or anything for it. I think it's just Nigel's slide there. Nigel, if you wanted to take that one down now, or I guess, has anyone not screenshotted his slide?
Well, he said he shared the slides with Bridget and that she would share them with us.
Yeah, that's fair. I always just like to check because I know I always like to screenshot information.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'll share everything with Bridget and Amber again so that they can share this with the group that attended today and everybody else. But yeah, no, I'm easily accessible, contactable over email. So I'll provide Bridget with my contact coordinates too.
If anyone wants to download it, I just took a screenshot of the slide and it's in chat there.
Perfect.
Oh, there she is on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nigel, for we have come and gone, but if there aren't any more questions, unless there are, did we give enough time for that?
Oh, had a good question back and forth with Adrian and Maximilian here. I think that covered a lot of major questions that I think most people would have about the program.
Awesome. Well,
okay. Well, if that's everything, Bridget, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, I'll just say a big thank you to Nigel. I'm trying to rack my brain of which entrepreneur it was that lunch last week, because they took the program and it was really valuable to them. So encourage everybody to check it out. Thank you for your time, Nigel, for joining us today.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. And maybe one last plug from myself, I swear to God. I will say, feel free to share this with your network because there is funding for this. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the only federally approved, it's nationally recognized. It's the only cybersecurity certificate that you don't have to pay for, right? So I will plug that again. Please feel free to share it with your network and your business chain. Because there is funding on offer for this, and I'd love to connect with them to learn more about their business and to help connect them to other federal departments who can provide them with the resources needed to go through this. So one last plug from me, but I wanted to get that out there one last time. There is money for this. There's money. So please feel free to reach out to me.
There's music to my ears. Thanks, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nigel. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
See you
All right.
tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
See you tomorrow, Bridget.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.